Welcome back to another episode of The Session. I'm Marie-Jeanne Paquet, your host, and as you know, The Session is a series of interviews with people who are active on the Montreal music scene, whether that be artists, producers, venue owners, teachers, etc. I aim to go out and meet those people and promote the work that they do on a platform like a podcast, but also to go and visit kind of the behind the scenes of what it's like to build a career as a musician here in Montreal. And so if you can take just 1 second to subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and it also helps me keep the production value of all the episodes up and to get great guests on the podcast. So thank you so much, and let's get into the episode. Computer scientist turned saxophonist, entrepreneur, educator, and lover of hip-hop, you have created a tight-knit community of insanely talented musicians who gather to celebrate musically the hip-hop tradition, encourage the growth of new musicians, and participate in massive events like the Montreal Jazz Festival every year. Vincent, welcome.
Thank you for that crazy intro. Yeah.
No problem. You're here today accompanied by Gino, otherwise known as Dix-iple Deca.
It is I.
Yes, an MC and a rapper who has been a key component in your formation. Welcome. Thank you guys for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
I really appreciate it. And again, like we said before, if you want to switch back and forth with French and English, I love it. C'est pas un problème. Like, I really don't mind.
On aime ça de même, nous autres.
On peut faire une chanson. On peut faire une question en français, une question en anglais. I think it's up to us. I think it's reflective, again, of what the Montreal scene is here. So,
how's your Mandarin?
Rough. You can ask Tony about it.
Because mine is terrible.
I know, maybe.
So,
okay. Then,
mine is non-existent.
Then there's a chance that I know some stuff.
I'm a bit rusty.
No.
So.
Yeah. How's your... Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit rusty, been a while. My Korean, though?
Okay.
Top
Sounds
notch.
good. I'll know for next time. We'll do a full Korean episode.
K-pop scene.
Hey, listen.
I wanted to ask you because, again, I did a little bit of research.
Yes, you
I
did.
put my little fingers in the internet. And so I figured out that you had a career in computer science and then you turned to music. And that's something that I think a lot of people relate to. And I personally relate to because I was headed for a career in health sciences and then went kind of screeched to a halt and pivoted. And so I relate to that. But I want to know, what do you think that sense of urgency you got to make your decision to leave was attributed to? Like, was there like an event that was like, okay, nah, I gotta go? Or was it like a slow burn?
It was more of not slow, but it was a gradual realization.
Okay.
I think it was building up over time. So yeah, I used to work in computers. I went I did pure and applied sciences in Cégep I actually was first in physics. I was first in physics at McGill. I almost got kicked out because I did so badly in physics.
Physics is hard.
It's freaking hard.
I have a friend that just finished a bachelor's of physics.
Yeah, it's and there's not much you can do with a bachelor's in physics too. You have to do.
You gotta get a master's.
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, so I did horribly. I ended up switching to computers. I'm kind of giving the short version because I can talk forever. So I switched to computers. Was working as a software developer during basically the .com boom, the beginning of the internet kind of thing. And I worked for 2 different companies, 2 different startups. And although I got to be very good and I enjoyed it and whatever, I became frustrated with it, not so much as a programmer, because programming is also very creative in its own way.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was more, I feel that whenever you're involved in anything, whether it's a creative endeavor, it's work, it's whatever, your goal is to make the company or the group succeed, and in the way in which you do it best. But sometimes you might have to do things that you don't do best, but it's needed for success.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. Let's say you run a studio, for example. You know what? Guess what? You can't afford to hire cleaning staff every night. Well, you're going to have to clean.
Yep,
you know, you're going to have to mop the floors. You're going to have to do that. So that's just part of the thing, right? So anyway, what I was finding as a software developer was that I sometimes would do my best at what I could do, but somewhere up the chain, a decision would be made that would completely nullify what I was doing. Everyone's
Have
like,
you had
oh
that
my
experience
God.
as well?
Well, the fun thing is in this situation, I'm very similar to Vince because he escaped. I'm still in IT. I'm still
in the
working in
Matrix.
IT right now.
Still in the
Hasn't
Matrix.
he broken out of the Matrix yet? Dude.
He just entered another Matrix, which
that's
is
true.
music
Yeah.
in Montreal.
Yeah, that's true.
It might be worse in actuality, but
Yeah, we can debate that.
I feel exactly that way. Whereas you might know exactly what needs to be done, you're making the changes, or you require a resource and an answer from somebody corporate,
Or somebody to
higher.
stamp something
Exactly.
so you can go forward.
And then, and I've done small businesses and huge businesses, and when it comes to the huge one, it works like somebody who has a really bad nervous system. Like you get hurt. And by the time it registers, like we've moved on, right? So you're waiting for top brass to tell you, hey, you know what? We changed our mind.
Right.
And you feel like you don't have control over.
So there's a
what's
sense
going on.
of powerlessness, I guess, that came from that.
Yeah, I guess I would say that for me, it's not so much about powerlessness, but there is that feeling. I think for me, it's more just like wanting to do the best thing, and be like, why did I sort of worked in the game industry, video game industry and stuff like that in the second job a little bit. And that is one of the most cutthroat parts of the...
Oh, I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard stories. Absolutely.
Many people working at, I don't know, Electronic Arts or whatever, and they're working on a game for like
Ubisoft,
5-6 years.
all of
Ubisoft for 5-6 years, and then the game gets canceled.
Or they just get burnt out.
Or they get burnt out. Yeah.
They have to leave.
But I guess I'm still talking about like the upper decision
Yeah.
that nullifies
Oh, yeah.
everything you've been doing. You know what I mean? And it could be that, or it could be... Without getting into detail, this is a hypothetical.
Allegedly.
For example, let's say, I don't know, you're working on some app or whatever, and it's so great and it's awesome and blah, blah, blah. And then marketing decides we're going to push this really hard in Spain. You're like, well, it's
in
the app
English.
is not in Spanish. So how, but no, we've decided that this is the market. It's like, well, what? So that's the kind of thing that can happen, right?
Yeah.
It's so you're hoping the whole chain works. Anyway, that was one of my sources of frustration. Kind of getting back to the original question. So there was these things, and in whatever.
But how did that lead you to music?
Well, that's it. So I'd always been doing music on the side. I'd always been doing.
Okay.
I'd played saxophone. I played keys. I was always doing that as like a fun side thing. And then when I was in computers, I took 2 vacations. One that was in New York, where I went to see shows and check out stuff like every single night. And then the second one was Montreal, a staycation during Jazz Fest, seeing shows, going to jam sessions, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if all of my time is oriented around music, why don't I try this? Like as a
every
thing
like
to
waking
do.
moment that's not at the computer is dedicated to this.
Of course,
Yeah.
now every waking moment is in front of the computer as a band leader. That's what's
That's true.
happening.
You're like, shit, I made it all the way back. I've done a full
We
circle.
circle back, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit,
But yeah, that basically was kind of it. I said I was 27 at the time, and I was like, well, if I don't give this a shot now, it's gonna be harder and harder.
That's true.
Yeah, so let's try it. So I went part-time at my job. I started doing auditions. I went to McGill for a year, and then I dropped out. So I didn't finish my music education or formal music education or whatever you call it.
Which is, I think, a lot of people that are doing great in the scene, it's not, I would argue, maybe I'm full of shit because I finished mine. I finished my undergrad. I didn't do a master's yet or anything, but you learn best on the gig. And that I'm learning a lot more now. Sorry, Miguel. I'm learning a lot more now that I'm working, I find, than when I was in school.
Well,
So,
look, I have very mixed feelings about schooling for the arts, right? Like, does it make sense to have a music performance degree? Is the idea that after that you are a music performer? Because if that's what the idea is,
it doesn't always work. It's not foolproof. I like the idea of apprenticeship. You know how like tattoo artists?
Thank you.
Yes. You've seen those, and like somebody has to like take you in, and they have to be like, yes, you could do this, and then, but that takes a lot of resour's. It's you can't like bring up a litter of 10 tattoo artists at the same time.
No, but you do each. If you only have 5, but they're better than any one of those 10. I I just had a conversation with somebody about apprenticeship, and I feel like apprenticeship mentorship is kind of coming back as a way of learning things in a certain discipline.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in a way, the CEGEP system, when it was introduced, it was kind of to avoid putting people into like an academic route that doesn't make sense, right? They're like, oh, you could do a 3-year program and go straight into a job vocation, right?
Yeah.
And it's like those kinds of forms of work that do not, you don't need a, like, well, we were just talking before, I think, the podcast about having like a bachelor's degree in physics. It's like useless, you know? So if you're doing that, you're going to at least master's degree or whatever, you know?
Exactly. That's a commitment. That's a huge commitment. Money and time.
In my time, at least, most of the teachers at McGill and these other schools, or not most, many of the teachers did not have a bachelor's degree because there was no music program. Are we going to say, oh, you're not good enough, you have to do like, no, can you play or not?
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
And I also feel the whole way the programs are constructed, put it this way. If the entire program was pass-fail, and at the very end, for your final recital, because you're doing a music performance degree, what you had to do was book a show somewhere and have more people in the audience than people on stage. How many people would fail?
How many would pass?
You know?
Yeah.
You know who would pass with flying colors? Shane.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Shane's
Yeah.
recital?
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So you know,
Shout out Shane.
Yeah, shout out to Shane. You know, actually, I got a beef. No.
Let's resolve this right now.
Let's start the rap beefs. You know.
Okay, so what happened is you decided to go back. You did a year at McGill, kind of saw the vibe, and then you just started gigging.
More or less. Like I when I slowly stopped my job, I mean, I think I had started playing a little bit. Like I started going part-time at my job and doing my audition, getting ready for auditions and all that, but also going out and going to jams and meeting people and whatever. So naturally you end up getting some gigs that way, like really sketchy gigs, which were great. I used to play on the weekends. Do you all out there know the PA grocery store on the one near Concordia, the PA grocery store?
You were playing
I was
in
playing
the grocery
in
store?
the grocery store on the
What?
second
I did
floor.
not know this.
So on the main floor is the grocery store. Just above, there's a little sort of balcony, and they had an upright piano. They would have a jazz trio. They'd have a bass player, a piano
So
player,
like you're
and a
picking your
horn.
cucumbers and you hear like...
Yes, exactly. Hear the lick. Yes, exactly.
That's
It was great. It was.
You're like...
I mean, you know, they couldn't really, I mean, people could hear us and they could see us, but, you know, could step back a little bit and then they wouldn't see you because you'd be, you know, whatever, you'd be further into the balcony area. So, like there, I guess I won't give names. There, you know, there was this one trumpet player that did it and he would play. No, he sat in the back so that he couldn't be seen. So he would play and then smoke. And then play, and then smoke, and play.
That's
because it's like you can't see
crazy.
me, so I'm just gonna do.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a fun gig, but also it was like obviously it paid terribly. I think we got a sandwich in like $75 or something for like 3 hours or some crazy thing like
That's
that.
wild.
But it was a
Yeah.
good sandwich, though.
It was a good. Actually,
It was a good sandwich.
I shout out to the PA sandwich. I don't know if they still have the sandwich counter. That is a great sandwich.
Noted.
But
Get this podcast sponsored by PA.
PA.
PA sandwiches. They're
This
delicious.
is that moment.
Get
It's
'em.
like, use my promo code
Yeah, that's
PA
nice.
Jazz Trio to.
That was crazy.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I just started playing. I just started doing things here and there, and then
But how
got
did you,
into
like,
teaching a lot.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That is one of the, like, as like a freelance musician, you end up doing a bunch of different stuff, which for me I enjoy a lot. I enjoy never doing the same thing on any given day. Some people don't like it, but anyway, to each their own. When did it turn into the cipher
Oh God.
or
Okay.
like urban science? Let's
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
say.
Fast forward.
Yeah. So I basically was mostly teaching for a while because I was basically trying to figure out, can I make a living as a musician? I used to be a software developer. Can I actually make enough money to survive?
Yeah.
Went to teaching. I enjoyed I love teaching. And I was just like, this works. But then I had like 30 something students at some point, and it's a lot. It's
Yes,
a lot. I mean, I was
yes.
doing fine financially, but it's a lot.
And it's a lot of the same.
It is a lot of the same. It's a lot of, I mean, obviously, as much as teaching's fun, teaching's also very frustrating, as we all know. I basically said, well, I didn't switch my life into music to become a teacher. So let's try to do some performing. And I slowly started kind of reducing my student load, started playing a little bit more, started writing more of or recording some of my own music and all this. And then eventually met up with Community. So
Yes.
Community, yes, you know about Community.
Yes.
And of course, you were part of
Yeah,
Community
part of
as well.
Community.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys meet through Community?
No, we did not.
Did you meet before that?
No, not really.
What?
I think,
Okay.
no, wait, I think we did technically, because I think you came to Cypher before.
Yes,
Community.
I went to Cypher
Like,
twice.
technically, yeah.
Like I went to Cypher. So long story short, been rapping forever. It's not important, but
Well, I mean-
it's like so. But I stayed in the background because I'm a father of 3, and I was very focused on that. So I stayed in the back. I was doing more production and
Yep.
things like that. And then around 2012, 2013, I'm like, okay, I want to go back
Yep.
and see what the scene is like here in Montreal. And I start talking to other people that kept rapping.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Monk E, great artist, a rapper, musician. And he's telling me, hey, I'm part of Community. You should totally like just come by and
Check
see.
it out. Yeah.
And then I went and I saw, and I was like, okay, this is amazing. And he's like, okay, so Community is, what day was Community again? I think
Tuesdays.
It was Tuesday?
Well, there's Tuesdays at
Yes.
Petit Campus at the, or I don't know when you.
No, before that.
Yeah,
on
'cause there was Tuesdays and
The
Sundays,
other venue
right?
that closed. 'cause that's
Consulat?
another- No. Babar.
Oh, but sorry, yeah, Boba.
Yeah.
I got confused.
So
yeah.
at the Babar, and I'm like, okay, so what other events like these? Because I had never gone to like a
Like a-
jam
like a
or
jam like
open
that.
mic where somebody can just come up, and somebody said, oh, there's Thursday is a Cypher at Bootlegger, and I go, okay, cool. Let me make it a week now. I'm going to all these places.
Yeah.
Went there, and I was like, okay, now this is very dope. Because now I was seeing not only the MCs switching out, I'm
The
seeing
musicians are
the
switching out.
musicians, and I'm like, okay, this is out of this world, right? And then a couple of weeks later, I go back, and I ended up coming with my friend Alpha Toshiniza from Winnipeg.
Shout out.
Great MC, artist, and then we come up because he's coming in for an interview, I think. Oh no, he was coming to do a belly bum actually.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, while you're here,
Hit the Cypher.
let's do
Yeah.
everything. So I'm doing Community, we're doing the Cypher,
Yeah.
and I think that was the second time I came by. And I don't know how we linked up and we started it.
Well, did you not do an opening act at Cypher?
I did
as
one,
well?
yeah,
Okay, you
yeah,
also did an
yeah.
opening act. Yeah. I think, you know, what it is for me is that when we started Cypher, it was very much like people I knew from many different projects. Community, of course, one, but Nomadic as well, that I toured with in different projects. With Paul Carniello, there's some different people. And people I met at jams and all these kinds of
Yeah.
different projects, sort of got them all together. But then as time went on, more and more the people that became part of the project were people that came to the jam, right? Because I saw them
Yeah,
perform
absolutely.
in
And
our
you're
style
like,
with
hey,
their thing.
come back.
Yeah, come back. And
Hey,
then like,
do
hey,
this
are you
again.
free to host on this day? Like, let's give it a shot, you know? And I think we got you involved with the brass band first, right?
Yeah,
Like,
after
it was
I
the first gig.
hosted, I did l'ouverture du
You did the
Cypher
opening,
one
yeah,
time,
yeah,
the
yeah.
opening. And afterwards, I think 2019.
I asked you for a
and
brass
you asked me
band.
to come like just
Okay.
try it out.
Very cool.
And
yeah.
and right after like 2020, COVID.
Yeah.
And the funny part is
But we had tons of gigs.
I never had that many gigs. Everybody was shut down, but the only band that can tour, move around, perform during COVID
Brass
is us.
band.
We're not depending on anything. It's just
Yeah.
it's us.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just started running with the guys.
Yeah.
That's it.
So for those who don't know, Urban Science Brass Band.
Yeah, I
it's
was gonna ask you for
Yeah.
like a family tree of the different
L'organigramme,
yeah.
because I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I love I love graphs.
Yeah.
it's the you know.
Yeah.
So is there one that's an umbrella term for the other ones? Because there's the Urban
know, it's
Science family,
confusing, yeah.
and then underneath it seems that there's the Urban Science Brass Band. And is the Cypher also another branch of the Urban
Yes.
Science family?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Urban Science Family is kind of the umbrella term for everything.
Okay.
So the way I describe it is that's Apple Computer, right?
Got it.
Now, Apple Computer has an iPhone. It has a MacBook. It has an iPad. There's many different parts of the Apple family,
Yes,
right?
got it.
So we got the Urban Science family. We got LeCypher or LeCypherX. We've got Urban Science Brass Band. We've got LabX, which is our workshop series, which we just started this year. Past La Beat that we started during the pandemic, which also Gino got involved
Yeah, I jumped in a couple of months.
Actually, I wonder if you did that stuff before the brass band.
Before I got it officially?
Yeah, because I wonder if that was what like kind of put you back in my memory. I was like, oh yeah, there was this guy. Yeah, he came to
early
oh shit,
2020,
he's doing some, maybe I'll call him for.
Yeah, 'cause,
I wonder if that might have been it.
So Mel Pacifico had done one of the Past the Beat.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And then I heard her chorus that
And
she
you were like,
did.
I got it.
I said, I'm going to take her chorus and
Yeah.
the beat that was there. And then I got my kids, because my kids perform with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's COVID. We have literally nothing to do. And we made a song about having nothing to do.
Yeah.
I filmed it. Boom, track is out. And
Yeah.
then we just had fun with it.
That's awesome.
yeah.
And that's what we did, yeah.
Yeah, so might have been. I don't know the exact history, but so that's the family tree. But I was
Okay.
going to say that what I would love. I've been shooting this out into the cosmos for the last little while. I would love somebody to do could be a documentary, could be whatever, but like a history of Black music in Montreal.
I know. I don't know why it hasn't been done.
There's been little things, but there's like kind of a big gap between like Oscar Peterson and the music today, kind of thing.
That is absolutely true. And there's there's a lot of branching out. There's a lot of different families that have appeared. And there's like, I mean, there's even like subgenres, I would say, that have appeared that even just like here, you know?
Like just in the 2 seconds that we've been talking, like we talked about Cypher and all this Urban Science family, and before that, Community, which we just talked about a little bit. I mentioned Pneumatic Massive, but who came before Community, right? Who knows Orson Clark and the Aliens and all these performers and artists, right? So like I'd love, and then who were their influences? I don't know.
I think, I mean.
And then Grove is like, Grove and Strawberry Jam and Just Jam and all these are like the next generation as well.
Yeah, the offspring, if you will.
Well, it's all just part of the same tree,
I think it's very interesting, and I agree. Either a documentary or a book. I mean, I guess with everybody's attention span right now, it'd be maybe easier to do a documentary. But
it's a website.
Yeah.
You can print it out, but it's a website.
Yeah, there you go. But I think that would be extremely interesting. If anybody out there is interested, we're prompting you to do it. It's time.
Yeah,
it's time. I've seen some episodes that, like, there are podcasts out there that are talking about Quebec rap history.
Yeah.
It doesn't go necessarily into all Black music history of Quebec, but I think people are interested in it, but it hasn't been like fully like logged in, I guess.
And it's going to get harder and harder the longer people wait, right?
That's true, because that stuff forever, isn't like, I can look you up online, but I can't look everybody that was at Community up online. I
that was before
I can't necessarily
social
track
media,
everybody. Exactly. I can't track them down. I would have had to be there or know somebody.
And then we add the extra layer. As IT guys, we know, we always thought that the internet would keep everything forever, and now we're seeing a lot of history revisionists, right? Yeah. Stuff that gets removed.
Yeah.
Recently, they spoke about I think what's the main music channel in the States? L'équivalent de Musique Plus,
MTV.
MTV, yeah. Okay. They were saying that the MTV website, they've removed like decades of content. So, and some people, like, we have journalists that were like, I interviewed, I don't know, Rakim back in the day. The only place that it was on the website, because they didn't want to put it on YouTube. They want to own it. They want to keep it, right?
And that's gone.
So now, if you thought you could go back to it, no, it's not there. So unless you have physical copies, physical media, then
which people don't like to do anymore.
No, but the
are you a proponent for physical?
I'm getting there. I was very.
You have some hard drives.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big proponent of piracy.
Oh, sweet. Say that to the camera right there.
It goes hand in
in theory.
Yeah, allegedly.
It's an act of rebellion. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's a revolution.
You hear that, Spotify?
It's not profit. It's revolution. Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I'm not I am and I'm not. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. But like, I'm glad that there's these rights organizations and all this. But then you're losing, like, certain things have historical value.
Yep.
And we need to find a way of preserving them and putting them in the public access, to have access to these things. Like you're saying, these interviews, like, man, I would love to find this interview. I was talking about this recently. There was this fantastic documentary that CBC put out that was basically all about how gentrification works.
Yeah.
And how all these like real estate developers work in terms of sitting on a property. Like, you see a business go under and it just stays vacant for 3 years.
Right.
So that means it's less expensive for them to just let it be vacant than to actually have a tenant, than to reduce their rent.
Yeah.
Why is that? And they go into it in great detail, and it was amazing in terms of also like who's involved, who are the different groups doing this. It was awesome. But they did it legally, so they had the distribution right for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And then now it's expired. They can't afford to do it again. So now it's gotten, but this is important information for people to know.
I would agree.
So.
I feel like something that always kind of comes back in these episodes as well is like the idea of, I'm going to say it in French, démocratiser l'information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the idea would be that I want to make the series of interviews that MJ at 16 would have wanted to see and be like, okay, so you can do this and it's not that it's not that bad and it's not that complicated, or it is, but this person has done it. So, so the idea of being able to get this information in a way that's accessible and, not gatekept.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, as much as you're saying that there are these interviews that have been taken off, this is the great thing about the information era in terms of a lot, not all, but a lot of the information is out there and hasn't been removed, In fact, it's the legacy media that is holding on to their rights, that is like, no, we filmed this for MTV, we can't give it for free. It's like, bro, it's going to be in the dollar Walmart bin. Like, who cares?
In connection with when you were
I can't believe I just said bruh. Nobody called me out on that.
I'm okay with it. I mean, it's okay.
Now
I'm 48. I can't say bruh.
Illegal. Straight to jail.
You were talking about piracy, right?
Yeah.
And if you go back
in theory, I don't actually know.
No, we're not. Allegedly.
No.
Allegedly. But remember when emulators for games?
What is that? I have
no
idea.
clue. You already know. So
Mm-hmm.
there was so many games back in the days, like Nintendo, like the original Nintendo, Sega games that weren't available for anyone, and people just we'll build emulators so we can play them on computers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then those big companies were like, oh no, that's piracy, but nobody had access to these. Right. Mm-hmm. We were actually keeping them alive. Right. It's often what we're seeing also with art. Mm-hmm. It sucks that we have art that's been made, often made with money from the public.
Yeah, that's
true. Film, same thing. And then for somebody to have the rights to it, keep it, and decide, au compte-gouttes, maintenant je vous donne accès. You get a little, every year we'll do a flashback episode of some type, and we'll give you access to these 5 seconds of this artist.
Mm-hmm. I feel that way a lot about visual art for some reason. For me, it's like if a piece, like a painting, has affected history this much, it shouldn't be in somebody's private collection. Like that, I'm not sure exactly why that's allowed, but all those Monets and Van Goghs and whatever that are, there's public collections that go around, and I mean, for some people, visual art is not as stimulating. For me, it's like if you go into it with the right mindset, it can be life-changing to get to see in real life one of those genuine copies or genuine paintings, and then to know that some of them are just in somebody's wardrobe somewhere because it's a tax deduction.
Yes.
It's almost as if Wu-Tang would have put out an album and only one person in the world would be able to listen to it.
Right.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And that person was a horrible person.
Yes, exactly.
That was also profiting from pharmaceuticals.
Yeah,
right?
just in theory.
Yeah, I'm just building things right now because we couldn't make movies out of this.
But on the other hand, from the artist's point of view, they have the right to do that. They have the right to sell their thing as a one of a kind. So I see both sides. I see both sides. But again,
I mean, if that's
piracy.
if that's what the artist intended, I think that's a completely different thing.
Sure.
And that's why you're talking about paintings. We're talking about people that are gone, and that's why we're bringing it back to for the public. Like if an artist has control, and it's theirs, cool. But then sometimes those are rights, especially now if we go back to music, it's all about IP. And these hedge funds are buying rights to music and making sure that afterwards they just control it. Then maybe the original artist didn't mean to have it locked into a cage.
No, exactly.
I mean, we're still getting you du nouveau Beethoven, là, on m'a dit récemment.
Yeah, I know.
Du nouveau Beethoven qui sort.
Yeah,
He's chilling with Tupac somewhere. Because he's still releasing music.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how that has. I wanted to ask you guys about. I'm going to ask about that question that you read a little bit earlier, where you say in an interview that music is painful and hard, and you shouldn't do it unless you don't see yourself doing anything else, which is a bold statement, but I don't think it's far-fetched at all. Would you say that loving music is a curse? And if yes or if no,
fully regrets it now.
Would you say you're happier than you were before you made your change?
Oh, I'm definitely happier than before I made my change. But I'm also more unhappy.
That's what I'm saying. I think what it does, my theory,
is
it just
more
brings the
unhappy.
contrast up. Whereas, you're living in the range of ups and downs, or you're like halfway up most of the time. But when you're getting into a field like the arts, it could be any art, it could be theater, it could be anything. The ups are much more up, and the downs are way more downs. So you get I guess you get the full range, but at what cost? You have to be able to handle the crashes.
Well, yeah, I guess in terms of happiness, I'm more happy doing what I'm doing now than if I was still in computers, for sure. Overall happiness. However, one of the things that helps with reducing your unhappiness is money.
I was going to get into that afterwards.
And if I had kept in computers from the .com boom until now...
Filthy rich.
Well, I would have 99 problems. I would have a lot of problems, but I would also have a lot of things easier. So,
that's true.
It's hard to, say
regrets?
exactly. Well, no. No, if I had to make the choice again, no way.
You would make the same choice.
Absolutely. The thing I would say is that I am fundamentally a creative person. Whether it was music or something else, I would continue to be creative. Now, maybe I would have continued in computers, but been creative in computers, found a way to be creative in computers. I don't know, we were talking earlier about cameras and this kind of stuff. Like maybe I would have gotten into that. I've just recently gotten into photography and I'm really enjoying it. It's like a different creative outlet.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, I kind of lost track of the original. Oh, it's painful. Oh, it's painful as hell. And when we played at Festi Jazz Rimouski recently, which was not even that long of a transit. It was like a maybe 8 hour because of the traffic, maybe something like that, 7-8 hour drive.
Well, we're talking about physical pain now. You mean like the roughness of the trip?
I hate that. I'm not interested in that aspect, the travel, the driving, not at all. Some people love it, great, But the point is, you travel 8 hours to get to sound check, whatever it is, another 3-4 hours to sound check and everything to do a 1 hour show, and then you drive back for another 8 whatever hours.
Yeah.
So that means you have to have derived so much joy and
from that
1 hour that it can negate or
everything
equate
else.
at least everything else. And if it's not, well, then do something else. Because why go through all that pain? Why?
But also the check.
I mean,
the check
Also
is
the
also
check.
important.
Also the check.
Of course. Make sure. Well, that also is the part of the balancing factor. You're like,
Right.
Yeah,
How much
exactly.
are they paying us? Okay, let's do it.
Exactly.
Let me get a
50
real
bucks?
quick.
No way.
You're getting me nowhere with $50.
Yeah, but sometimes there's gigs that's like, yeah, I'll do that for 50. I don't give a that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's easy. It's in the cafe right underneath the apartment I live in. Sure, I'll
Yeah.
go there and play solo piano for an hour. I don't know. They give me a coffee and a croissant. Sure. You
Yeah.
know, like you got to make those PA grocery store choices
Yeah,
sometimes.
of course. And I really do believe in paying your dues. You know,
Absolutely.
I do think that your ability to run and host and make the Cypher happen might have been partially built on that PA gig or on any of
100%.
those, you know,
All of those.
shitty
All
paying your
of
dues
those.
gigs. Like,
Yeah.
you don't get, I feel like you don't get good unless you just,
Well, if you don't make mistakes, you don't get good.
yeah. Speaking of,
Right.
you guys are doing workshops now, and I think that's awesome. And I think I think that I'm wondering what, like, I mean, there's always been a component of like bringing up new people, right, with the jams and everything, like it being open, people being able to come up. But I heard that you went even to McGill recently.
Yeah.
And what was the thing that made you guys want to look ahead like that to new people?
I guess it was last year that I applied for a grant for the Canada. I never applied for grants before. It was just not a thing that I did. I was like, let's just do shows and make it work and somehow, you know. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and it's like, well, there's no more shows to do. So good luck with that model.
Yeah.
But at the same time, all of the arts councils were throwing money at the arts. And even though I may have mixed feelings about that whole way of doing things, I said to myself, if I don't apply for it, somebody else gets it.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's true.
probably more qualified than some people to get it. Not everyone, obviously. So last year I applied for a grant for a workshop series, which we call LabX. And the basic idea, actually, it kind of goes back to Community, because back in the Community days, we used to do workshops sort of on and off. And then eventually I kind of took over the workshop series and it became a weekly thing. Every single week we were doing a workshop. It was open to the public, and I think more or less we just did sort of a workshop showing people how to like sort of perform in a community style. But then eventually we branched out and we did like singing workshops. We did lyric writing workshops. We did all kinds of different specific things. And then for myself, just going through time, I started developing my own ideas about this. And of course with Cypher and building up all these different things and going to workshops about the music business, about, I don't know, about, you know, how to make a tech writer or whatever, like all this kind of technical stuff that apparently we don't learn in music school. And we gotta know. It's a performance degree. Tech writer? I don't know how to do that. Well, how are you gonna perform if you can't tell them? But anyway. So yeah, it kind of started out of all of that, and then, like you said, like Cypher was, yes, it is a way for people to come up on stage and kind of learn, you know. And for a little while, we stopped doing jam sessions. We stopped doing open jam sessions. But as of, well, whenever this comes out, as of October 3rd, we came back fully with the jam every single week. It is open in the sense that anybody can express their desire to come up on stage. At the same time, we do decide who gets to come up on stage.
Which is,
you know.
I think, which is fair. Like,
Absolutely,
if it's a face that you've never seen before, you know, like there is some degree of catering that.
Yeah, somebody can
needs to
vouch for the
happen.
person and say, "Oh, I know this guy; he's gonna kill it." Come
Exactly. My thing about that is this is a jam session, but it is not an open mic. At an open mic, you get your 2 songs or your 2 minutes. You do whatever the hell you want. At a jam session, you have to want to perform with me, and vice versa.
That's right.
If we don't, I'm like, oh, this guy sucks. I hate it. It's okay. Well, then
Then the vibe's already absolutely
already-
horrible.
it's off.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why we have this terrible vibe, because we've
Yeah, that's why the
freaking hate
restraining
each other.
order is in place.
Exactly. See, it's a 1 foot
don't touch
restraining
him.
order.
Yeah. So the you know, let's say a new face wants to come up at Cypher, they would start by just attending and meeting the band, and I guess organizing a session with them.
Oh, you could. I mean, obviously,
Or-
there's people who just kind of come up for the first time, and that's fine too. I mean, I would say, like, when I started going to jams, I would go to jams and not play, because I would check out what's happening.
Yeah, listen.
Yeah, listen. That's number one, right? I would go to, I don't know, some jazz jam session, and I knew my like 5 tunes, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know that one that they just played. I know what it's called. I'm gonna learn that for next time.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's
you
a
just
great
check it
idea.
out,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Maybe also you're like, oh, I'm going to play like 48 choruses. And then you go to the jam session, like, oh, they do like 4 choruses max. okay, maybe I should like rethink.
Yeah.
What you got to see what the
Yeah,
what
or like
the
they play
vibe
this
is.
specific groove, and you're like, shit, I've never done that.
I've never done that before. What is that? You know?
Yeah.
So so I think first thing is just go and check it out. You know, just educate yourself by going. You know, there's nothing I hate more than people that go to the jam, get up on stage, and leave.
Oh. Like they'll just peekaboo.
Non-contributing zeros.
Yeah, you don't even count in the crowd now. You didn't even help to bolster the numbers. You just I'm out.
Do you think it's a fear thing? Are they scared? Are they like they get up and they're like
Just selfish.
No, it's selfish. It's
Selfish.
100%.
Oh,
Like
they just want
I'm
it to
there
be-
to perform. That's it.
And then I'm out.
Yeah. Oh man. It's
yeah, that's
so
rough. I have to agree. I
it's
think that's
very
that's
common.
poor. That's just poor jam etiquette, is what
It's
it is.
very poor
There you
jam
go.
etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's probably something that you touch on in your workshops, I guess, now as well.
Well, we've just said it here at the podcast. So
Yeah, so you guys
The
Like and
infor- the
subscribe.
where are your
information is out.
notepads? Guys, get your notepads out.
know
I don't know
this.
what you're doing.
But so the workshops is kind of like a way of talking about a lot of the issues with regards to the jam and how to get better at the jam and different aspects of music in general, not necessarily the jam, but just different things in an offline format. Because I don't know, let's say the first time you come up and, okay, here's a common thing that rappers do. They come up and there is more, okay, yo. There's more of that than the
actual
actual
bars.
verse, right? So there's something that in the moment I can't like correct this.
That's right.
No,
But
you
maybe
can't.
offline at a workshop, we can be like, okay, you just did like 16 bars of okay, just get to the verse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You can
and it
troubleshoot
goes-
that, and you can stop the jam for like 1 second and be like, okay, 3, 4, let's get back into it. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Bass player, you're playing F sharp, but the keyboard player is playing this other chord,
Yeah.
so let's figure this out.
And it's experience, but like Vince said, if you've never attended, watched, listened,
Yeah.
you won't know.
you wouldn't know that an F sharp it won't work with that chord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're screwed.
So it's important to have these spaces where we can kind of talk about things in I'm not going to say non-judgmental because it is judgmental. It's like that's the wrong note or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're not being
There's
like
criticism.
embarrassed in front of, or
Yeah,
you
or
don't
it's-
perceive you're being embarrassed in front of public, right?
Yeah, constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism.
love
There is
that.
still a good and bad and a right and wrong, and we still have to develop those things. We want people to be as good as they can. It's also a chance for us to, like, I've never spoken to Gino about what the musical concept of Cypher is. We've never discussed it. Right? I've never discussed like what kind of things he's looking for. We should. We should.
You're
you know?
like, wait a second. But there seems clearly to be some kind of mutual understanding.
Of course.
where,
Yeah. But there is still, like, fundamentally, there's still a difference between
I'm
the
sure.
Science Brass Band, for example,
Sure.
Yeah.
and the Cypher.
Absolutely.
I'm new at everything. I was new at Brass Band, and now I'm new at Cypher.
Now you're a brass band vet, for sure.
Yeah,
for
but,
sure.
but I'm new at the Cypher. I'm
True.
brand new at the Cypher.
Yeah.
So even for me, it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's put me on like 1 or 2 of those gigs just for me to come through.
Yep.
I've listened on the other end.
Yes.
And I depend a lot on when I'm seeing Shem, I'm seeing
Right.
Darkest.
The more experienced guy.
that they're doing it, even though in age I have more experience, and even scene-wise. But gig-wise, these guys are doing it
They are
every week.
so-
all the time.
Yeah.
Grove, yeah.
That's just one of the things they do, right? They have other, but they do this one.
And they run a tight
consistently,
ship.
super tight. And because I've done Grove, I've done Cypher, I can see the differences also.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, now I get what's going on. And it's a funny thing that if you go in the comedy scene in Montreal, the training is kind of baked in. Like everybody knows, okay, you did jokes at this open mic or at this venue.
Next, you'll go there.
You go there, and you have to run all those different gigs, places, before you're like, okay, cool. Now I did my 5 minutes in these places. I'll upgrade to doing a 10-minute set. I'm gonna go around before I call myself, okay, now I'm the top dog in comedy right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I've done, and it seems like because it's a little bit more freestyle when it comes to music.
Yeah.
We don't run that tight ship.
No.
That's what allows sometimes. I'm
What
talking
do
about
you
MCs.
mean that we don't run that tight? What do you mean by that?
Rap wise, like I'll only speak of rappers. Musicians, that's something else. That's not for me. But on the rapper side,
Yeah.
it's because we've never had those restraints. we're not used to that.
Of
So
like,
we're just
hey,
used to,
you got 16 in and out. Get in there. Get your
and
16 and get out.
that's how it should be. But now we're just used to being like, a lot of the new generation, especially, they don't know the whole.
Because they're
we're
used
gonna
to
stick
rapping on a
those 16s.
YouTube beat that they can loop if they need to.
And that I'm rapping like, let's say you take a type beat. Even on the type beat on YouTube, they will be like, that was the intro, that is the verse, that is the chorus.
yeah.
So even the students that I teach like rapping,
Yeah.
they're not seeing all this. I'm just rapping 49 bars.
Right.
49? Why 49? and hey, if it's creative, like do what you want.
Sure.
But we
Yeah.
still want the basics to be
If
learned.
it's got intent to it. but-
Exactly. So before you
Chances
break the
are-
rules, you need to know them, right? And if you're gonna do a 49 bar verse, then the people that are playing behind you should know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
where are we going? What are we doing? There's other people with you. So mic-wise, as MCs, when we're rapping on an instrumental, is very different than having musicians that now the loop is them. At
Yeah,
some
yeah.
point, the trumpet player that's doing that riff, he's getting tired. He needs a breather somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And it's a whole bunch of notions that you will only know if
you do
either
it
somebody
live.
taught you or you went there
Yeah.
and you lived it.
And you saw it. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Learning on the gig. I'm
On the
a huge
gig.
advocate for
Back to
that.
what you said.
Absolutely.
And the other side is true too. A lot of instrumentalists don't know how to play for an MC.
Right. Make space for them.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
Make space, but also not necessarily like a very common thing. And this is very hardcore kind of workshops, or hardcore, whatever. It's also sort of obvious. It's like usually in these kinds of jam situations, you know, when there's a verse, the rhythm section kind of backs off a little bit, right? But you need to be able to back off. Like if you think of some of the most hard-hitting hip hop beats of all time, it does not back off on the verse. It's still going.
Boom.
Right? And that's what
Yep.
energizes the MC.
Yeah.
So you have to find a way of playing with a lot of energy and not completely removing the guts of the beat in a live situation without burying the MC.
Absolutely.
So-
Or like creating some kind of arc with energy to build
Absolutely.
it up. You know, you couldn't like
Yes.
lay off a
Nuance.
little bit and then bring them up or something. You know,
Absolutely.
like I agree. And that's something that's also true for like jazz solos as well.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like there's nothing
These skills
there's
are
nothing
transferable
less,
to every style.
Yeah, there's
you know?
nothing less satisfying than like being the soloist and like trying to get something to lift off and the band is just into and
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Snooze fest.
I'm trying so hard to make this lift off right now.
It's
so
thinking
yeah.
about the big picture. It's you know, it ties back to what I was saying about I hate jammers who show up, play, and leave. It's like there's a bigger picture. It's not just your solo. What does this song sound like?
Yeah.
Does it sound like a fucking boring? I don't know if I can swear, but I just said fucking boring. Bleep it, otherwise.
Yeah.
So anyway, it does it just sound like a fucking boring tune with maybe a great solo in the middle and then it's boring? Or did you help the whole song be amazing because of what you did and how you brought what you brought to it? You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know, like in jazz, it's often like horn players who'll just show up, play a solo, leave, like fuck off. You know, how about show up, do the head and all this kind of side thing. After
some
your
pads
solo,
or
there you go.
something.
Play some background patterns. Build the tune. You know, and when you do a solo, instead of just doing a solo, why don't you do trades with the drums? That could be fun.
There you go.
I
Now we're
agree.
having
Different.
fun.
You know?
Yeah.
You know,
I'm holding a note for the last bar of this line. Hey, Phil.
Do
You
something
know?
there.
Yeah. I completely agree. That's something that I think comes with time. You know, also it's just
course.
like a not like I have a ton of experience either. I'm not trying to be full of shit, but you know, I think the more because I'm the reference on this. No, this is why I have you guys here.
I don't know what the hell. I got nothing. I got useless. I'm useless too.
No.
You know. Well, we
Aren't
all have to
That's why
keep
we
learning.
come together to be useless together.
Well,
It's
you know
a
what? Let me
band.
just come back to because I was saying that like the workshops are in a way just a chance for us to talk about our perspectives and all this kind of thing.
It does clarify things, huh?
Yeah, so we get to talk about it and be like, this is how I'm thinking about it, and I think that you guys could do it this way. But what do you think about it? There's still some openness to the discussion because it's not like we came to the end of the line and we're like, we figured it all out. This is how to do it. Like we're still figuring it out too. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, this is like turned into like a large endeavor at this point. I would say, you know, from my point of reference, are you on your own in the administrative side of this? Are you the pen and paper of Cypher? Because I'm thinking, like my brain is melting just thinking of the idea of like pitching this to festivals, pitching this to venues. Yeah, I mean, you have the thing at Opatrovis that's every week that I'm assuming you have to put this together every week. And then so how do you is there a
That's a recurring.
yeah.
Okay, so
How does that work?
I'm passing it on to the younger generation, but I actually am passing it on to the younger generation. So one of the reasons why we were running it weekly. Pandemic hit 2020.
Yep.
And then we did actually get a grant during the pandemic, and we did a
Once a month?
what's that?
was
No,
once
we
a
did
month?
once a week, 2021 from October to December.
Okay.
And we did it as like that was following the whole like reopening thing for those who remember that. So it's like first it was like hard cap, 100 people in the room seated separately in
Yeah.
tables, and you have to be within the same household. You can't get up and but all this stuff.
Yeah.
To like you're allowed to get up, you can take your mask off, take a drink, and put it back, and whatever. We went through all that kind of thing, and then if y'all remember, in December of 2021 was the second lockdown,
Yep.
and that ça m'a démoralisé.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I was just like, je peux plus, you know, I can't, like that was the hybrid sessions, we called them, were supposed to be like the relaunch. So we're going to do this, and then we're
Ouais,
reopening,
je me
we're
rappelle.
coming back.
C'est vrai, c'est
It's
vrai.
all like, here we go.
And then just
and then,
Right,
and I was like, you know what? Je peux pas.
No.
I'll go and like start all over. Like, anyway. So
because it's hard to regain that momentum.
Absolutely. Also, going back to doing it weekly, having not done it during the pandemic and done a bunch of gigs with the brass band,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go back to jail.
I remember you saying
said that, yeah.
It's like, how was I don't think I can do this
I
anymore.
can't do this. Like, I
What
feel
is
like I'm
it?
going back to jail.
Is it the straight to jail? Is it the regularity of it once a week? Is it the organizing? What was it that felt like jail?
I mean, every single week you are promoting a show, you're playing a show,
Yeah.
you're hosting it. You know, back then, or pre-pandemic, we would end at like 2:30 in the morning. So I would get home at like 5 or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like your whole life is based around this, you know? And also not having it made me realize all the stuff we could do with the brass band. We started, like I said, applying for grants, but not
Yes.
just that, just in terms of like developing material. We developed a bunch of the original material at the beginning of the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know, all this stuff. And I was like, I didn't have any time to do this before, you know?
So it was freeing.
It was very
in a way.
freeing. Yeah. So that was all part of the reason. And then what happened was Gary Tremblay, who owns Diazons, contacted me at some point. So this is after with the second reopening. He contacted me and he said, hey, would you be down to play Diazons once a month? I was like, oh, once a month? I can handle
Not so
that.
bad, yeah.
Keeps
Yeah.
the project alive. I'm not going to go crazy with the promotion and everything. So we started doing that for a while. And then what I found is that once a month is in some ways harder than a weekly.
Because we don't have the momentum for the crowd.
Exactly. Can't be
Yeah.
like just show up every Thursday here. So now you're promoting a big show every single month, and that becomes its own thing, as opposed to just every Thursday, just over there, just every Thursday.
Yeah.
You know?
There's something about a routine.
There is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we kind of decided. I forget when we decided, but I talked to a number of people. Said, "Do we want to come back?" And a lot of people were like, "Yes, come back as a weekly." I talked to also people who are not necessarily part of the crew, but were fans back in the day. It's like, "Do you think we should come back?" I mean, Grove exists. There's all these other jams that exist. Like, is there a place for Cypher? And people are like, yes, yes, it would be so cool. So I'm like, okay. And then after the very first one, the October 3rd, I was also surprised because I talked to a bunch of the people that came to jam, and almost all of them had never been to Cypher before because they came to Montreal in 2020 or 2021.
It wasn't
exist.
there.
Yes. You're
Didn't
right, you're right.
exist.
Yes,
you know?
you're getting a new crowd.
It's a
which
new
is
crowd, but
nice.
it's also just realizing that they've all experienced the children of Cypher, but they have not experienced Cypher. And I was like, okay, there's a reason to come back.
Yeah.
People are you know, like wanting to check out
Yes.
they heard about it. That's why they were there. They heard
That's
about
true.
it. Like, finally, it's back.
You know,
I get to see
yeah.
this thing.
These
you know?
these conversations make me wish I could have attended community.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Facts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was not
Although-
I was not present.
Community did a show in September or something like that. There was a festival somewhere, I think in LaSalle or something, or Lachine or something.
Oh, yeah.
What?
So Community's not dead. Community's still around. You know, Community's not doing a weekly, as far as I know.
Yeah,
I would love for Community to come back as weekly, but that's a whole. I don't want to inflict that curse on anybody.
Straight to jail.
But, yeah, exactly.
You're already going through it right now. No. But it was incredible.
As an observer and somebody who would just show up, play solo and leave. No.
Yeah, exactly. You hypocrite.
He was talking about himself.
No, but as somebody that was like, yes, I organized the workshops, but I didn't organize the weekly shows and all this kind of thing. As somebody who was just like, oh, I just show up and I play. Man, it was so much fun. I miss those days. But yeah, so it's coming back to your thing. So part of my requirements for returning was that I told people I need to develop a team of people who will eventually take over, and that if I'm dead, it can running.
Live on.
Yeah. It keeps living.
Take the legacy.
Yeah. So then I started kind of verbalizing like, what are my sort of pillars? Like, what are the things that I think are really important to distinguish this event? What are the things that I want to mettre à l'avance? Like, it's really like, these are the important things. And so I started doing that and had a bunch of meetings with different people. I actually, originally, I had talked with Shem and Darkus because I was like, well, they run Grove. They know how to run events. Why don't they just run both, you know? And talked about it with them. And eventually they said no. And I completely understand because they're like, well, it doesn't make sense. Like, we're running Grove. Then, come to our other thing. It's us again. I get, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's better to kind of keep a certain amount of separation, you know, but we still do things that are like crossover. Like,
of course.
Jazz Fest, one of the nights was a Grove crossover with Cypher.
Yeah. I was there for that. I enjoyed, I was there for all the after parties during Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
And it was a great time.
You
guys pulled some great musicians, a great show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Those are awesome.
It was really fun.
Those bring us back to our roots, going till 3 a.m, right? Going till 3,
and it's Jazz Fest. It's the right
Jazz
time
Fest.
for it.
A lot of people are like, yes, they're back. You know, they love it. So we love doing Jazz Fest. We hope to do it again, but you know, we have no special relationship with Jazz Fest. If they book us, they book us.
Is it? I'm assuming you're the link.
I guess. I mean, they do contact me for it, but I just mean that like we're just like any other artist. Like whether we get a booking or not is completely up to the whim of Jazz. It's not like we have some kind of special like every year. Even though we've been doing it for. Actually, next year is going to be our 10th year anniversary.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But I have no idea if.
So you're basically waiting for the email.
I'm waiting for an email, just like everybody else. Yeah. You know.
That's crazy.
So
I thought you would have reached out to them. I don't know how this works. I've never done this. So I did reach out to Jazz Fest because, like I said, it is our 10th year anniversary. So we are actually. I might as well announce this. Yeah,
November 22nd at the Théâtre Fairmount. Assuming this comes out before November 22nd, we have a mega show for our 10th anniversary. More than 30 artists on the bill. CypherX and friends.
It's gonna be crazy.
4-hour concert. All kinds of things. I'm kind of describing it as like an improvised show, just like we usually do, a freestyle show with guests, all this kind of thing. But there is kind of a pacing that I'm working on right now in terms of, because 4 hours sounds amazing, but it also sounds like a nightmare, right? It's like, does that become boring at a certain point? Right? So I'm trying to develop certain things that still allow us to improvise, but will provide kind of a reset and a move in a new musical direction at certain points in the show.
Yeah.
And so I haven't even told it like this.
I'm just learning right now.
What is it? I'm like, what is it? You know?
He's like, what he said. Yeah, whatever he said.
But ça s'en vient, you know.
That's very exciting. So you said November 22nd?
November 22nd.
That sounds awesome.
I believe the ticket link is coming out, this week. Whenever this thing is out, I'm sure it'll be available.
I'll definitely put it in the bio then.
Do it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm gonna grab my bucket hat. My
bucket hat.
It's a melon hat. Sorry, it's a melon hat. I have this melon hat, and I love to ask musical questions to everybody. But I'm doing this new thing now where I have these questions that range from absolutely normal to potentially maybe a little disturbing, and they're not music related. And we're each gonna.
I was just about to say C sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
C sharp.
Cool, C-sharp, nice. We're each gonna pick one, and then we'll all answer it. And it's just like a little segment I do at the end of the episode.
Like fortune cookies.
You know what? That's
You're right. I should like
you should make
fold them into
open
cookies.
Them up.
That'd be crazy.
Next concept on a freestyle. Next LabX. It's like
fortune cookies.
We're gonna wrap what's in the fortune cookie right now.
Yeah.
Boom.
There you go. So, do you want to start? Who wants
Sure.
to start?
Do I pick and read right away?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Okay.
You read it, and then we'll all answer it.
Truly random. Truly random.
Yeah, I need to get more. I need to
Oh
get...
my God, this is long.
It's
Okay,
because
see,
I wrote it in both
okay,
languages. I might make you pick another one if it's the same question as the episode before.
If I gave you a bucket with everything you've ever lost, what would you look for first?
My innocence.
Everything you've ever lost. You know what? I'm going to take this as an opportunity to tell a little story.
Sure,
Oh.
go
You
ahead.
know,
Absolutely. I've answered this one
because-
in the last episode, so I'm just going to listen.
I don't even remember what the model name is now, but when I was a kid, I think we had a piano in the house, an upright piano, but the first instrument that I was gifted was a little Casio keyboard, like one of those beige Casio keyboards
Yep.
like this with the little button keys on it. It was a calculator and a keyboard, and then it had like a song that you would play, and as it plays, it shows the numbers like 1, 4, and you press like C and F and whatever. And that's like, I was messing around to learn that. And I have a strong emotional association with that thing because it was the first kind of instrument I
Yeah.
messed around with, even though it's a toy, essentially, you know? And flash forward to having, I guess I'd switched into music at this point, and I was playing with a band called Dinamo Coleoptera, which is a whacked out, actually, people probably know Teke Teke. With Maya Kuroki. So it's Maya Kuroki's previous band, Dinamo Coleoptera, that I played with briefly. And it was a very wackadoo out there kind of sonic playground, and I was like, my God, that keyboard
Would have been perfect.
Perfect, and I knew it was at my parents' place. So I went over to my parents' place and they had thrown it out. No. And I was furious.
Yeah.
I was like a petulant child, and I was so upset, and I was like, please just like next time ask me before throwing it. Anyway, I was really, really upset about this. So whatever. And then a couple months later or a month later or something, I was over at my parents and my dad was like, oh yeah, there's a package. Could you go pick up the package downstairs? Of course, in the context of the story, we know exactly what's going to happen, right?
But you had no idea.
I had no idea. It's like, okay, package, whatever, I'll go get it. So I went downstairs, picked up the package, brought it up. I was like, could you just unwrap it for me? So I unwrap it, and sure enough, it's one of those that he bought on eBay that he found.
That's sweet. That's very sweet. That's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So people ask if my parents, supported my musical journey or whatever. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, no parent is like, oh God, you want to be penniless? Yeah, I'm not support. Like, They didn't say like you're never doing this, but there's certain things that.
But like, my mom was happy when I got into med school.
Exactly. So that was So there is something that I lost.
That's a great answer.
And that I found, and it was.
Luckily, you did find it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or rather, that somebody who cared about me
found it. Yeah.
Found it, and that's even better.
Yeah, that's true. That makes it sweeter for sure.
Yeah. So.
Do you have one of those?
I have no incredible story like that. Look at that. Like,
well, that's true. How are you going to top that?
No.
Well, is there anything that you've lost?
Well, you can pick another question also.
I will pick another one.
Yeah,
I'm not topping that one off.
I'm also like, I obsessively keep so much of my stuff, so there's little that
Are you a hoarder, Vince?
I have been accused of being a hoarder.
No.
So yeah,
I have that trait also.
Oh.
I also think it's an IT thing. It's like
Maybe.
it's a physical backup. We can't back the data, so I'm gonna keep this thing.
I will. Yeah.
These 3 screws just in case.
Yeah, you never know when you're gonna need that 2x4 that has an odd length.
Never know.
There's a lot of stuff that I have thrown out over time, but I was like, take a picture, now I can throw it out. I still have the memory of the thing.
Okay. I see.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
What's the question?
So, tell me about a time you experienced something so uncanny or paranormal you couldn't explain it. Wow.
You ever had one of those?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Do you believe in ghosts?
No, seriously, I don't have. That's a very. Moi, lire en français. Ça, on se répond en français, certain. Parle-moi d'une expérience paranormale. C'est spécifique, là.
Non, mais
déstabilisante que tu as eue. Hey, une expérience Paranormal.
C'est des questions tough. That's what I'm saying. They could be odd.
Écoute, là, as a Christian, qu'est-ce que je vais mentionner?
Too controversial.
C'est ça. Non, j'ai pas rien qui me vient en tête comme... C'est le genre de question. It's the kind of question you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember there was this exorcism I did like 3 months ago. I don't know why I didn't remember that thing in particular.
That's fine.
Je vais aller...
That's
okay.
fine. If
Le
you don't
paranormal,
have
je suis pas sûr. Déstabilisante, en réalité, some of the... In the past few years... Well, first of all, pour moi, COVID was just a fever dream. So just that
true.
already.
That's paranormal in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say.
Oh, you know what? No, might as well. There, boom.
Yeah.
Let's go with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I did almost die during COVID. So
Did you get it bad? Did you get it bad?
Oh, I got it horribly.
Oh no.
Horribly. Yeah.
Before vaccination.
Oh yeah, before vaccination.
Yeah.
Sick. I still remember when the goal went, oh yeah, we're gonna reopen everything, and I was like, the first time, and I'm like, right before school starts, and I was like, I remember telling like kids like, I know it. You guys are gonna go to school. By the time you come back home, I'm fucked. And it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Kids went to school. I still remember.
Everybody
birthday,
got sick.
Everybody got sick. Like on the second week of school, when the kids came back, they were fine. And
Well,
I
yeah.
was a hot mess.
Yeah.
So that, for me, a whole fever dream.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, some of the shows that we did during that 2-3 years, for me, were so incredible, experience-wise. When we did FEC, Festival d'été de
Oh,
Québec.
yeah, that was cool.
Oh yeah.
For me, one of my top shows ever that I've done. And I was like, the crowd, the people, what we were doing, it was my first time performing with a huge crowd like this with a band. I'm used to just being me, backtrack, and I'm performing. Okay, cool. Having a band backing you up.
So
right?
cool.
In a live situation, that anything, you know what? Something unexpected but awesome happened, and I can just freeball it at that point.
Yeah.
For me, ça a un niveau d'extase, un niveau qui est presque surnaturel. Quand t'as un crowd comme ça,
Ouais.
and it's not, c'est pas comme si, c'était un crowd. Everybody there were there for you, baby. Like, no. Who was the big artist that was...
Oh, Rage Against the
Yeah,
Machine.
like-
Yeah.
Tu sais, on ouvre avant Rage Against the Machine. I'm thinking it's not for us. You guys were here first,
Yeah.
but cool, right?
But hey, you're having a great time.
We're
I'm having a great time.
And you love us? Okay, we
Yes and no, though, because Rage Against the Machine was on a different stage.
Ouais, c'était simultanément
we
juste
were on the
après.
free stage.
Yeah, exactement.
Right? So some people
We
are
were
like,
for the broke
I can't
people."
afford, I can't.
That's for the by,
I'll take
by the
second
people.
best. That's something great.
Yeah,
If
for the
I'm
people,
second
by the
best
people.
To Rage, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I would say those
That's a
two
good.
things
That's a
are
good.
my
You put a
top.
positive one and a negative,
negative
one.
one,
That's
yeah.
it. That's well balanced. I like that.
That's it.
I usually like to close the interviews with 2 little questions that I ask everybody. First question is, if you had to recommend an album that I need to go listen to this week, that like you enjoy. It doesn't have to be your favorite record. It could be just something you're listening to recently that you're like, that's sick.
Recently or just in general?
Whatever you feel. Follow your heart.
For me, Marsha Ambrosia's latest album, when we came back from Rimouski, I put that album on. Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Beautiful. Yep.
Amazing. Masterclass. Need to listen to it.
Whole way through, no stopping.
Complet.
Yeah,
I
perfect.
think the hard thing for me for recommending is I always recommend, and this is all things, whether it's restaurants or music or whatever. I always recommend based on the person's interests and needs. So it's hard because you've been interviewing us. We haven't been interviewing you.
Good
So
point.
I don't know exactly. I know that you're a jazz vocalist, and that's about it really. So it's hard for me. I'm like, oh, maybe. Betty Carter, The Audience, or something. I don't know.
I mean, that'd be...
that's a classic.
That'd be a crazy pick, yeah.
It's really hard for me to choose just one based on. You know what? I'll. You know what? This is an album that I like a lot of, and I also don't like a lot of. But I like artists who try for something, you know? I believe the artist is Robert Mitchell. He's a piano player from the UK.
Okay.
Who has a project called Panacea. And I think the album is self-titled or something like that. There's a few tunes called like On the Brink and all this stuff. Anyway, the point is it's kind of like a sort of hip hop jazz fusion type of thing.
Okay, sweet.
And soul as well. It's got some tunes on there that are so incredible shape to the tune, like starting from a certain place, and by the end of it you're in this whole other place, and you're like, oh my god, you know. And like virtuosic piano solos, and the drummer Richard, that's how I discovered Richard Spavin. So Richard Spavin is this great drummer from the UK who is this like crazy jazz drummer, but also like plays like with Jay-Z or whoever. Like he'll play straight up hip hop, and he's got the whole thing going on, you know. So yeah, the phenomenal. I discovered that artist and this album in the MySpace era.
Ooh.
That was back when you would be like, oh, what's this related artist? And you discovered stuff that way, right? And I remember, there's maybe 5-6 artists that I discovered in the MySpace era that were really like, oh, what is this? And this is one of those. Now, like I said, there's some tunes on that album and on different things that are not that great, but
there's gems in there.
There's gems that are like, holy shit. And I think it's called like The Brink or something. I think it's the first track. It's either the first or the last track that is like, whoa. Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go check that out for sure. That sounds like a great time. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And then the last question I want to ask you guys is, now that you've seen kind of the questions I like to ask, the kind of approach I like to take to these interviews and like the series, I'm wondering if you guys had to pick the next guest that comes on and speaks to me about, their experience building a career here, getting their project off the ground. It doesn't have to be like artists. It could be, like I had Sergio on. I had like a bunch of people that do behind the scenes work as well. Who would you recommend?
I want to give a middle finger to the Grove crew, because they called me out for this shit. So we're starting some beef.
Yeah.
Grove
all
crew.
You guys gonna fight.
Yeah, let's see, who did you know what? I know that this was a question. I didn't even think about it at all.
That's okay.
Do you have a thought on who?
I don't have somebody right now. I'll pick somebody from the crew.
You've
That's
got
the
some
thing.
great
It's gonna be
guests.
inside.
You've got some great guests. Sergio's a great guest. Grove guys are a great guest.
I loved having
I think
Sergio
you had
on.
Leonie Gray.
I
didn't watch that one yet,
Oh,
but
really? I need to watch that.
Yeah. She
she's
came
awesome.
to man.
Leonie's dope.
Yeah, it was great. She's done Cypher as an opener like multiple times,
Yeah.
and it was so great to see like her development from one show to the next. Damn, who would be a really great guest? Gotta think about this a little bit. You know what? Go to one of the OGs. Get like Alan Prater, or get Cécile Dukingé.
I don't know Cécile Dukingé.
Cécile Dukingé is a fantastic guitar player, singer. Holy crap! I mean, okay, so I kind of knew who she was, but didn't really know. And she used to host at Grumpy's. There was an event on Mondays called Chick Pickin' Mondays. And it was Chick Pickin', and it was women artists who get a spotlight on a Monday night.
Cool.
Whatever. Okay. And she used to host that. And I forget who it was. I think it was actually one of the ladies of the Canyon people who were playing that night, who was the featured artist. And then Cécile was hosting, so then she came up and hosted, like, I'll play a song or two. And I was like, oh my God.
Surprise.
Like, she started playing guitar, and I'm like, I hear the entire rhythm section, and it's one guitar player playing. Holy and then she sings, and it's great too. It's just like really phenomenal artist. And Anthony Pajot toured with her a bit. I'm not sure who else. Actually, I forgot his name now, but there's a bass player that I knew from Community that toured with her as well. But yeah, she would.
Okay.
I would love to watch an interview with her. I'm so curious to know.
Pick a brain.
Yeah, and also because we're talking about the history of Black music in Montreal. She's part of that slightly older generation that I'd be so curious to know more about.
Awesome. That's a great pick. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Look, thank you guys so much. Well, do you no? That's okay.
You're
I
like, go with what he
was
said.
I was fully satisfied with this answer.
all
but
right, fair enough,
Anyway,
fair
if you think of someone, please feel free to let me know because
now everyone from the crew is like, well, what about me? Why didn't you
That's
say
what I
me?
said.
You didn't shout me out.
I would have picked anybody from the crew would be good.
Oh, I already shouted out some people. So is it autofocusing on my
Yeah,
finger?
it is definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
For
Just
the
put it in front of your face.
closed captioning, I'm holding up a middle finger.
Yeah, for the people listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm looking forward to that show on the 22nd. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to plug before we go?
You know, we're doing those workshops regularly. Great way to kind of up your game.
How
in
can
order
they
to
find where the workshops are?
So the workshops is the @LabX Herbsci account. Honestly, if you go to Cypher or you go to Herbsci, whatever, you'll find all the links to all of our things,
Perfect.
whether it's on Instagram
Sounds
or
good.
whatever. LeCypher every week, Thursdays, Au Patro Vis. Urban Science Brass Band, we just do shows here and there. I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 more gigs before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Although I've been, can I just throw another last thing in there? I've been tossing up this idea. So there's an event in New Orleans, which unfortunately I didn't get to go to.
New Orleans?
Yeah, there's an event called the Brass Band Hang. It's basically a massive brass band jam session. And I'm like, what if we did? Because I have so much free time. So
Right.
why don't I start up another thing? The Brass Band Hang. What if
Classic
the Urban
Vince.
Science Brass Band was playing somewhere on a weekly basis? Let's say we did an hour set, and then after that, anyone who brought their horns, here's some charts. Let's just do some stuff. Let's play some New Orleans material. Let's play some bar material. Let's play some hip hop. Let's go.
That's so
that'd be-
cool.
that'd be
Okay,
something
toss it out into the universe.
Toss
Hey,
it up.
we
Somebody
never
else
know.
run this.
Yeah, exactly.
Dusty Brass. Somebody,
Yeah,
do this.
yeah. Dusty, take care of it.
That's an
Please.
awesome idea. I like that very much.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
for having
I
us.
wish you guys a great day, and we'll see you. Actually, hey guys, you're on the last episode of season 1.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I'm wrapping up season 1. We
And
did
then we're
10
burning
episodes.
down the studio.
And then
whoops.
exactly? No, I'm kidding. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna take a couple months to plan season 2. I have like a bunch of ideas. I always have a lot of ideas. Too many ideas. You've been there. And I'm cooking up some stuff. We're gonna start it back up around February or March of 2025. But until then, this is goodbye for La Session Season 1. And there'll still be some Tiny Mic sessions that'll be coming out where I kind of take my Tiny Mics and I go interview people
Nice.
in different locations. And I also have this new thing that we started that's called the La Session Radar, where I pick a bunch of shows from people that either have done the series or are on my radar, and I make these like video posts about what's happening in Montreal this week for live local music.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I call it the La Session Radar. So that's gonna keep coming out until the beginning of next season. And yeah.
I'm so happy that you're doing that because it used to be you had the Mirror or whatever these things you look what are the shows
What's coming out?
I
Was that a
don't
website?
know.
I didn't even get to witness that.
So it's like Cult Montreal, it's an alt
Yeah.
weekly
Yeah.
Mirror.
Yep.
What was the en français il y avait c'était quoi les alt weekly
C'est drôle, mais il y avait Nightlife aussi.
nightlife,
Yeah, true.
all these things.
So
but
what
they
I'm
would
building-
have music listings, and you could just be like, oh, I want to see that in
Yeah.
styles, in different styles. all this
Exactly.
thing.
What I'm doing is
So-
I'm building out this Google Calendar that's
Great.
public and people can just add it to their
Oh,
Google
fire.
Calendar, so you just see all the shows that are happening. And I have my guy Phil, shout out Phil if you're listening, who is like scouting and finding shows
That is
from a
kind of
bunch of people. We're putting
incredible.
them together, and then I make an Instagram post every week detailing like what shows are happening.
Awesome.
And so that's gonna keep coming up. But until then, have a great winter, and we'll see you in season 2. Ciao, guys.
Ace.
I'm dancing to the music at the end of the show. I'm sure there's something like, oh, we're making our own music. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.